Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. Alright, so first up for D&D, I have my mug, obviously. Love a good stat block on it. And I'm actually going to go ahead and read a couple of these things to you guys, because I realize I haven't done this before. The features of the mug are heat distribution. The mug keeps heat evenly distributed to your beverages hot. To keep your beverages hot, there we go. Liquid container. This mug can contain 15 ounces of your favorite drinks. Actions. Drink. Bring mug to mouth and chug the liquid goodness. Stare. Gaze lovingly at mug and reflect on all the good times you've shared together. So I hope that helps you guys understand what I'm actually talking about when I say I have a mug with a stat block on it. Inside of it, I have some Yogi Throat Comfort Tea. I've been working a lot recently, talking loudly across rooms to people, so I think you can actually kind of hear the burn in the back of my throat a little bit, but hopefully it doesn't stick around for too long. But anyway, getting into what we are actually going to be talking about today. First off, actually, before we get to that, I want to say a huge thank you to everybody that has already gone and watched / listened to the first episode of Sunday Brunch, the patron-only show thing, you know, whatever you want to call it, over on my Patreon, available for all of my patrons that are at the $5 tier and above. If you have not gone to check that out and you are one of those people already, go check it out. We just kind of sat around, talked about minis a little bit. I painted most of this guy while we were there. I don't know how well you can actually see him on the video here. If you can't see him or you're listening to it, it is a pickpocket. He is a cat with the peacock wings. That's what they're called. And I love him very, very, very much already. So if you're interested in that, go check that out. If you head over there and you decide you want to become a patron, thank you very much ahead of time. But now to get into what we're actually talking about today. Last week I talked about indisputably the best subclass in every class, and there were people that went, well, hey, that doesn't seem right. These are just your favorites. And I went, well, you're right. Okay, sounds good. So I have gone through and I have made my list of what I believe to be the strongest subclass in each individual class. That does mean that most of these are optimized for combat specifically. And this is not to say that I don't think that you can make a good character that is proficient in what they need to be proficient in, good at the things they need to be good at, without taking one of these classes. Obviously, any of the subclasses in print really can be used to make a solid character. These are just the ones that seem to have the heftiest fighting ability, I guess, is what I'm trying to say there. I don't really know. So let's go ahead and go through these right quick here, shall we? Starting off at the top with the Artificer, we have the Armorer. This one kind of surprised me a little bit. I wasn't super sure what I was going to have when I got into looking at the Artificer. There are obviously only 4 subclasses for it, but in my head I thought maybe it'd be the Artillerist, because obviously they're focused around having, like, you know, major offensive power, or they're supposed to be. But on looking at it and really sort of going through the features, the Armorer is the one that stood out to me. We had it's hard to dispute being able to turn into Iron Man. I don't really know how else to say that. The Armorer Artificer allows you to create your own power armor and essentially become Iron Man. You don't need to have necessarily weapons or anything like that on you in order to do it. And it's just it's really good. It's powerful, and it is realistically probably the most combat intensive subclass for Artificers. The other ones either suffer from having too little offensive output, that's the word I'm looking for, or being a little bit too squishy, ultimately, with the lack of having armor literally built into the class. So, up first, Artificer, Armorer. Next up, we have our Barbarian. This one was a little bit closer, I think. Again, I might just be projecting a little bit here, but the Zealot Barbarian did come close to taking it for me. I know that I said that they were my favorite last week, and I stand by that. I do think that they are phenomenal, and that top feature is something that it's really hard to argue with being just unkillable. It really is. And so That played a heavy role in moving it way up that list. However, you get it at level 14, and getting something at level 14 tends to mean that you can't really use it all that much, which means that, to probably no one's surprise, the top pick for Barbarian is the Path of the Totem Warrior, specifically because of that bear totem early on. In addition to that, your Barbarian can actually become someone that is weirdly good at several other things if you take the right totems as you level up. Good example is you have the option to take the Eagle Totem at level 6 that lets you see for a mile as if it were close to you. So you become like the best lookout possible, pretty much. Also, the Eagle Totem at level 14 lets you fly for rounds, and anything that gives you a flying speed is automatically going to be incredibly powerful. And obviously that bear totem at 3rd level is kind of the thing that makes this whole subclass worth it. Resistance to all damage except for psychic when you are raging is absurd. It genuinely just absurd. It feels almost broken, but at the same time it's not, because that's kind of what barbarians are built to do. So Path of the Totem Warrior is my barbarian choice for that one. Moving on to the bard subclasses. This one I did actually split on in my head. There are 2 here, and I think specifically one of them is significantly better for the roleplay aspect, and the other one is significantly better for the combat aspect. To probably no one's surprise, the College of Lore Bard is the one that takes the combat trophy home there. The extra magical secrets, cutting words, everything in that camp there is just too good to pass up. The ability to debuff enemies as a reaction is always going to be something that is absolutely phenomenal. And the fact that you can pick up extra magical secrets just sort of throughout there and early on like that is going to be something that really just kind of like drives home how good a bard can be by taking spells from other classes and then being able to use them in their own right. Now, the one that takes the cake for the roleplay aspect of D&D, again, probably not super surprising, but other than the fact that I am splitting it up like this, is the Eloquence Bard. There's something to be said for not being able to roll below a 10 on a lot of your charisma checks. There just is. And the Eloquence Bard is the talker. It is the Eloquence Bard, I mean, it's called the Eloquence Bard to start. It's going to be good at talking. But your Eloquence Bard is going to be your face of your party pretty much no matter what. Even if they have a 16 charisma and you have, I don't know, a sorcerer that has 20 charisma, they are going to be the face of the party just because of that fact alone. So if you don't know anything about the Eloquence Bard, go take a look at it. It is so cool. It is really well done. And it is built around roleplay, which a lot of the subclasses that are built around roleplay tend to fall kind of flat because they require a lot of specific situations. Eloquence Bard does not do that. Moving on to the Cleric. This one is kind of a runaway, which is unfortunate because it is not my favorite one. I do like it a lot, but it is not the one that I look at and go, man, that's really good. The Twilight Cleric. Everybody's been talking about it since it came out. The Twilight Cleric is honestly probably far and away the best one, unfortunately so. I adore the Peace Domain Cleric, and it is incredibly powerful, but the Twilight Domain Cleric, it just is better. It just is better mechanically. All of its stuff really sort of meshes with it and turns you into just this absolute beast of an individual as you are playing a Twilight Domain Cleric. So much so that you get flying very early on, which again is going to be something that is just going to be crazy powerful no matter what, because you get the flying without having to spend a spell slot on it. And that is really the thing that is going to kick it up and over into the next one, in addition to the 300 feet of dark vision that is just insane, because otherwise you max out at about 120 for, you know, racial features and stuff like that. But the ability to fly is really what pushes it over the top. In addition, the Channel Divinity on that one is phenomenal in that you can just give people temporary hit points without having to try, which is so cool as long as they're kind of close to you. Twilight Domain Cleric, one of the best. Followed pretty close by Peace and I would say Grave Domain as the runners up there. But Twilight Domain Cleric is just, it's a cut above the rest, honestly. Next up, for our Druids, again, not my favorite one. In fact, I think that it's kind of played out at this point, but it is hard to argue with the raw combat power of the Circle of the Moon Druid. This one, letting you Wild Shape as a bonus action, first off, phenomenal. It's phenomenal. But this is the one that lets you, you know, do stuff not do stuff. It lets you become these other beasts that are just better. They're just better than the normal sort of setup that you get. You are so restricted by the normal guidelines of Wild Shape that oftentimes, unless you are using it for a very utility purpose, it doesn't actually behoove you to use Wild Shapes in light combat, with the exception of activating some of your features. The reason it is called Combat Wild Shape for the Circle of the Moon is that you can use it in combat effectively. You can turn into these creatures that are still kind of crazy. And then at level 10, the ability to turn into elementals, which are CR 5 creatures, that with hundreds of hit points, not hundreds of hit points, each of them has somewhere around 100 usually. But that is beyond good. That is so beyond good, honestly, that it is almost not fair. It's almost not fair. I'm looking at the time and I'm realizing that I'm not going to be able to make it all the way through this list, but that's okay. Circle of the Moon Druid is kind of far and away the best Druid subclass for combat. It really is. I adore a lot of the other ones, but it's hard to go wrong with that one. Next up, we have our Fighter. Now, this one was another split for me for a very, very similar reason. Like, they both made it to the top of this list for a very similar reason. So I'm going to go ahead and give them both mentions here as tied first placers, just because I think that it's worth it. So I am giving this to, honestly, almost weirdly enough, two that I'm pretty sure came out of the player's handbook. I'm almost positive that's right. The Battlemaster Fighter and the Eldritch Knight Fighter. These two both bleed versatility. And when I say that, I do mean they are the most versatile subclasses in Fighter, because they have so many options that go with them. The Eldritch Knight brings magic. Everybody loves magic, obviously. Magic is one of the best things about Dungeons and Dragons. And if you don't think so, then I don't really understand why you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. Even the people I know who are like barbarian mains love magic, because it's just a versatile kind of tool to have in your back pocket. They might not love spellcasting, but they do love the magic part. And then in addition to that, the Battlemaster comes with all of its different maneuvers, all of its different abilities to affect creatures around it, the field around it. And it is just hard to beat and hard to pass up that kind of versatility, because that kind of versatility is not something that you come across in all of these subclasses. When you're looking at something like the Purple Dragon Knight or the Champion, no real hate to the Champion, mostly the Purple Dragon Knight, because it's super disappointing. But there is just so much that goes into the Battlemaster being phenomenal and the Eldritch Knight being phenomenal that a lot of the other fighter subclasses kind of lack. The Psy Knight? I think I'm... Psy Warrior, I think it is. Psy Warrior, not Psy Knight. Is honestly getting pretty close. Same with the Rune Knight. These that bring other, like, flavor options that you can bring in are phenomenal, but the packed in versatility of the Battlemaster and the Eldritch Knight are what push them up to the top of that list. And then we are going to do, I think, monks for this one, and then I'm going to stop and I'm going to do the next one is a separate part, because I'm already almost at 15 minutes and I don't need to make this a 30-minute long video episode. I keep forgetting that I'm talking to people just in their ears too. Sorry, I love you as well. So, monks now. There was for a long time in my mind a pretty clear winner for this one, which was the Way of the Open Hand. I really love the Way of the Open Hand. In particular, that top level feature, Way of the Open Hand, is the one that really sort of feeds into that more, stereotypical traditional sort of martial arts style that a lot of people automatically go to when they think of a monk. But I think that the best monk subclass has become the Way of the Ascendant Dragon. And hear me out on this one, and it's going to be something I've said a couple times already, but you're going to have to stick with me on it. It's because you can fly. You can fly early on. That is all it takes for me to think that you're going to be one of the best, is the fact that you can fly. The fact that the Way of the Ascendant Dragon Monk has the ability to grow wings and fly starting at, I believe, level 6? Level 6? That's crazy. Is really, really phenomenal. And you can use that feature a number of times equal to equal to your proficiency bonus as a part of your Step of the Wind, which people are going to be using a lot anyway, because dashing as a bonus action is one of the best ways to get around in the game. And monks are fantastic with mobility and stuff anyway, so why wouldn't you use your Step of the Wind if it lets you fly until the end of that turn? Because if you are a level 6 monk, let's just stick with you here real quick. If you're a level 6 monk with a base walking speed of 30 feet, your base walking speed, while not wearing armor, is actually 45 feet, and if you decide to use Step of the Wind, you can fly 90 feet, just like straight in a line, which is... I don't know anybody that doesn't want to fly for 90 feet before they fall back to the ground, because also, at this point, monks have slow fall, so you can fly 90 feet straight up, punch something, and then just back down to the ground. You are not losing anything with that. So the ability to fly is really, really phenomenal, in addition to the fact that its Aspect of the Worm and Ascendant aspects are very, very good features as well. The unfortunate thing for that one is that the level 3 feature is not necessarily the best, in the same way that Dragonborn's Breath Weapon, not necessarily the best. So, it's fine, because the rest of these features are actually really, really fantastic features to have if you're playing Monk. So I'm going to cut it off there. Come back tomorrow for the back half of this list, if you wouldn't mind. Because I am excited to get to talk about the rest of these. I did a lot of looking and reading and refreshing on a lot of these subclasses in order to get myself ready for this video. And so I am loving being able to talk about this. It's one of those things where it makes the tickle in my brain happy, which is a weird thing to say, but I think you know what I mean. So, moving on from that, we are going into the shows that we have happening today, which is Monday. I am excited about this because Monday's got a long list. First up, we have Flavor City, which is my show happening on my YouTube channel. It is the finale to this one. It's a 10-episode long little arc here. If you are interested in watching it, please go check it out. I had a lot of fun with it. My players had a lot of fun with it. So thank you ahead of time if you do decide to go check that out. Again, finale tonight. Go check it out. Anyway, the rest of the shows that we have happening today are The Paper Dungeon, Chromatic Dice, Beyond the Realms, Unprepared Casters, Greetings Adventurers, Bards of New York, Hapless Heroes, Island Adventures, Cast Party, 3 Black Halflings, Hello from the Magic Tavern, King Leo D&D, Anti-Heroes Anonymous, and The Tabletop Tavern. So go check out any of those people. Let them know that I sent you. As a couple of these people actually do know who I am, so it'd be great if they message me and were like, hey, did you tell a bunch of people to come watch this? Yes, I did. So go check those out. Send some love and support their way. They definitely deserve it. And go ahead and expand your D&D show library as you do so, because a little bit more D&D never hurt anybody. But, as I mentioned, that is everything I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my patrons. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. As I mentioned at the top of the show, there is the first episode of Sunday Brunch out on my Patreon now. It's a patron-only show. I'm not going to be releasing it anywhere else. So if you want to see it, go check it out there. And, yeah, I believe that is it. So, all that said, don't forget, drink tea, play D&D, and keep on rolling.